Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Beneath the Lift Tower. My name's Charles McGilvray, and as always, I'm joined by Jess Keble and Simon Stacey. Before we get going, just a reminder, please follow us on all social media platforms and follow us on the relevant platforms for wherever you get your podcast so that you can get access ASAP. How are you both doing?
Good, thank you, buddy.
Good, thank you.
Good. It's interesting, though, obviously no Saints rugby over the weekend. We've had a few news bits that have come out, regarding leavers and stuff like that, and then obviously the European. So if we chat about them a bit, I mean, what do we think of the leavers list? Is anything surprising on there?
It's one of them, innit? There's so many good youngsters in our academy. You just think, we can't keep them all, and it's a shame. There are a few you think, like Will Glister's one that surprised, but then he's not getting game time, so it's just one of them. There's so many good players coming through the ranks. They want to play rugby, don't they? If they're not playing, they're going to move on.
Sorry.
I was just saying, we get this every year of there's always a bigger list of leavers and everyone freaks out and panics. So it's pretty normal. It's pretty par for the course that you release academy players or you lose, senior players. You see the headline, you think, oh my God, 9 players going. You're like, yeah, but it's pretty. I reckon that happens every single year that like you said, lots of academy prospects that you sign and then they get signed elsewhere or they don't quite come through here for whatever reason. So yeah, it's not really a surprise or really kind of, oh my God, 9 people, panic. I was like, it's pretty normal at this point. I wouldn't have said there was any surprises really. Like I said, all the people that sort of on that list, there's quite a lot of names ahead of them, aren't they? And at the end of the day, they want to go and play rugby, and so they want to go where they're going to have the best opportunity to do that. And it's like Simon says, you'd love it to be here for all of those people, but it just physically isn't possible. So
yeah, 100%. I think there's a few names on there that have been around the club for a number of years and just haven't quite managed to get their foot through the door. Will Gliss is an interesting one. He's obviously had some bad injuries because he obviously had a good start and has played fixtures for Northampton, but then has had injuries probably at the wrong time and all that sort of stuff. But there's plenty of people on there as well who are haven't really got even as far as Will Gliss along the road sort of thing. They're the decisions have been made, and I guess it's all just squad management. I think that Lawrence and Appleby, for example, both looked, good prospects and have only, from my understanding, had sort of 1 year in the senior academy. Have both played in Championship rugby this year, and you sort of think they've obviously made their assessment based on that. That's not, you normally see them for a few years before that happens, but it is what it is. You hope they'll go on and play good rugby elsewhere, and maybe we'll see them down the line. But yeah, interesting. I think the big names on there are Tom West. He's obviously done a great job for us over a few years, and I think with the old lefty coming in, it's a numbers game, isn't it? They've obviously picked slightly younger, maybe less seasoned player that they reckon they can develop, and West has probably had a pretty good offer from Red Bulls. So yeah, it's lucky we kept hold of Robbie Smith, or otherwise it'd be a full Saints front row up there next year.
I was going to say, is it the Newcastle Saints the way they're going, isn't it?
Yeah, and then obviously friend of the show, former interviewee, Finn Brown as well. I think he's had a few clubs now, and it's just a case of getting game time. I reckon wherever he turns up, I think the rumor is Ealing possibly replacing a certain individual coming to Northampton. But it might be that's a perfect place for him to go and tear it up for a season, because he's been doing it at Bedford. So if he goes there, I'm sure he'd tear it up again. And you never know when there's opportunities. Maybe he's got a Welsh grandparent, and he'll be an international before you know it.
Yeah, well, good luck to all of them anyway, as long as they progress. That's all we can ask for.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then, what do you both think of the European fixtures?
Yeah,
they were too. To be fair, they were too good. I sort of went into it not knowing how competitive they were going to be, and I thought as long as they're both competitive and they're sort of decent, it would be a decent watch. And luckily, they were both close. So, well, with the second one, I suppose close up to a point. But yeah, I think there were two really good contests. But I got to say, watching the Bordeaux Bath game, my overriding feeling watching it was just, I'm so glad our team isn't in this. You're just like, I'm actually so glad that I wouldn't have to sit through this, because I just imagine that was probably agony for Bath, like having to play there and stuff like that. But I think I said when the knockout rounds, before even the round of 16, I was like, that's going to be the final, and I'm not at all surprised that that is what ended up happening, to be honest with you. But it's an interesting one, because I say that, like, watching all four of those teams over the weekend, I'm not sure we saw a single one of those teams in any semi-final play at their best. Like, I don't think Leinster have quite been, and it's ironic because I think they might have played some better rugby last season, but they obviously got knocked out by us, in the semis. Whereas this year, I wouldn't say, they've not looked like the Leinster of old for a while. And then Toulon obviously kind of had to fight their way back into it, but sort of left it a bit too late, really. And then the same for Bordeaux and Bath. I don't think either of those two. I think, ironically, it made it a decent contest, actually, but I don't think either of them two teams were like completely firing in the way that we've seen them before. So I think, funnily enough, like, all four teams not performing maybe to the best of what we know they can is what kept every single team in it for a decent chunk of time. But yeah, as I said, I still feel like Bordeaux in particular are definitely probably the best team in the competition this season. So I'm not surprised they've made it there. And then it always seems to be the Leinster way that they managed to get themselves through. But yeah, two really good finals. But yeah, I certainly can't say that I'm sad that we weren't in it, because I don't think I could deal with that for another weekend.
Yeah, you could.
So I was just going to say, it was just nice to have the blood pressure rested for a week. That was all.
Yeah.
The Saints in a game like that would have probably finished me off this year, because they've literally been leaving it to the last minute, and I can't be doing it.
I honestly think we could beat any of those teams, if I'm being brutally honest. I think that the difference between us and them is minimal. If not, I think we're better than some. But yeah, I mean, what do you think of the controversy around the Bath Bordeaux? I mean, I think I would. I think if I'd seen some of those things, and then the way in which French TV don't show things on replays, etc., but do when it's the right way around, I think that would have probably been. Yeah, that would have been the end of me, because I don't think I could have coped.
It's exactly what I was saying to you on it before we started. I know we don't talk about it, so we don't spoil it, but I was like, there's always controversy, isn't it, with referees or match officials or TV replays or the TMO, and it was the same again. Some of them head-on heads, and they're, oh, sorry, the French TV can't show it again. That's not right. That's not right at all, is it? It's not fair.
Yeah,
I don't know if it would have altered the game much, but still, a man off the pitch, you know what I mean? It is what it is. Hard. You can't say it would have changed anything, but you don't know. That's the thing, and it's not fair when it's for one but not the other, like you just said. When it's the French side, they play everything 20 times, and it's hard on the referee. I'll defend the referee this time, because it's not his fault. If he hasn't got a replay, he can't see it, can he?
I don't know. I mean, that as I say, that first one on Barbary, like, it does go on the screen once, and it's really clear even from that angle what's happened. And he saw it and he went, well, there's nothing clear in that. I said, there is. Like, there just is. Like, you actually didn't need to see that from 1,000 angles to understand what had happened. It's clear from every single one of them. But yeah, it is the point of that. There was a lot of, obviously, critique about it online about them not showing the replays, and then you get a lot of people pushing back, going, well, the TMOs have all the angles, blah blah. I was like, well, for one, like you said, was it Whitehouse, was it, at least once said, oh, I'm asking for them to show me the angle, and they won't show me the angle, or whatever. Like, he made a comment about it at least once. And then I said, it's not even necessarily about the TMO. I said that the amount of times that in games that refs will see something on the screen, they'll see replays of something, and they'll decide to review something based on what has replayed on the screen. Like, that happens quite a lot. Like, you think of our game against Bath, like, Luke Pearce had seen that tackle on the screen a couple of times, and then the TMO obviously came in after, and he said, yeah, let's review it. Like, the referees do make decisions to review things based on what is shown on the screen. That is just an everyday part of games. So I think people saying that it didn't really have an impact because the TMO have the angles or whatever are kind of missing kind of a fundamental aspect of a ref still sees those and tends to make decisions based on what is seen on the screen. And like, we say this every single year, and yet I find it so weird that nothing ever seems to be done about it. Like, this isn't the first time that we've said it. It's just unfortunate that it's probably the first time that, like, in one fixture, there's probably 3 pretty bad sort of tackles in there that should have been properly reviewed. So
that's the thing, though, isn't it? Like, because the French TV company came out and said, "Oh no, the TMO had all the angles they ever asked for, etc., etc." Not sure I believe that, but
yeah,
the thing is, this is like a known phenomenon in France that they just don't show the replays of if it's not suited for them. So it's not like this is the first time, and this is a known thing that you just don't get that. We got it in the Po game, for example. You just don't get it, and I think there's a massive misconception by everyone involved as to the whole TMO process. And they say, oh, they're checking it in the background. They're checking it in the background. I don't think they always are. I honestly think half the time they're just sat there with some biscuits watching the game like the rest of us. Right? And
Bag of
quite frankly, and quite frankly, some of them are just not very good, and therefore, or not engaged as a fan might be, and therefore they miss stuff. The referee misses stuff, TMO misses stuff because he's watching the wrong part of the screen or whatever it may be, right? And so, how often is it like someone goes down and then they go, "Oh, I need to see like what's occurred, why has he gone down?" But there's plenty of occasions where, in the heart of battle, players just play on, but there's been bad head knocks and it just goes missing. But that half the time it is that a cameraman will have seen it, so therefore it gets up on the replay, and then the team goes, "Oh, we better check this." I just don't really believe that they're that competent and actually doing this. Oh, we're checking everything in the background. I just don't think they are. And I also think it's possible. One man can't necessarily do it. How can one man keep up with reviewing every single incident through a game whilst the game is live?
Exactly.
You'd be 15 minutes behind it constantly, wouldn't you?
I was going to say, do you reckon the Barbary one was because it was somebody that's built like a brick, house against a scrum half? It's sort of like he's absolutely massive. You just think, well, a little scrum half can hurt him. It shouldn't matter, should it? It's head on head. But maybe that was just taken into account that it's just a big man against a little man. But it was
pressure
comical.
The stadium, like that stadium's intense in it as well. There's loads of factors. I think like that might have been a factor. I think factor like the referees are terrified and don't want to make big decisions that go against home teams sometimes. And it's interesting, but thankfully we're not. We're looking at it from the outside on this occasion.
That's what I mean. I wouldn't. You sort of feel these days that you're almost like with any match in any competition, because I don't think it's like it's not, obviously it's a French thing, so it happens in the European competition, but I think TMOs and refs missing stuff is not in any way unique to that you just know you had a feeling going into kind of both those semi-finals something will get missed that probably could have changed the game or at least had an impact in some way. And I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen for them, but I'm kind of glad that because normally it's like players and coaches are told to like not say anything about it. But I'm kind of glad that Van Graan was like, well, 3 incidents happened and none of them were showed on the screen. Barbary was pretty, put up a photo of like the freeze frame of like exactly where the contact was on his Instagram, etc. And I'm kind of glad it's created a controversy, but it only really makes a difference if they're going to do anything about it. Like for me, it should just be the simple thing of like, you've got your French TV directors. If they're not going to show all the angles or show what they're asked to do, you find them, and it just keeps going until they finally buck up. Or you have to put rules in that say that in this tournament, it's up to the EPCR, it's up to World Rugby, it's up to Prem Rugby, whoever it is, that they have to provide the TV directorship. Like you have to make changes somewhere, because it just can't keep, especially as like the difficulty is between French and English clubs in particular, it already doesn't feel like a fair playing field, with their squads and the money that they have compared to English teams. It's so hard to get yourself, and I think Bath, one of the few teams, probably us and Bath in the Prem at the moment, some of the few teams that can maybe just about match them in terms of how good the squads are, but then, and you just about get yourself to that level playing field despite how tough it already was. Then you add this on top. For some teams, like even like teams that are maybe a bit further down that might have to play them, it's like not a level playing field on 2 aspects, and that makes it even harder. Like Bath probably did have the squad to beat that team, and they stayed close kind of throughout, but those moments certainly do have an impact. And I know that, like, look, people make comments about Ben Spencer all the time about how he kind of goes off at the ref quite a lot, and he does get himself in trouble quite a lot. But I can't imagine how frustrating that is as a captain, where you're trying to make your point across to a ref of like, particularly when you get to the third one, we go, this is the third sort of head-on-head that's been missed in this game. And then obviously the ref gets annoyed at you because you're annoyed at him. And then that just makes the whole communication just completely breaks down. And so, yeah, it probably would have just been so tough for them. And but like I said, it just makes me glad that we weren't in it, because I'd have just lost my head probably. I can't even imagine what it would be like, what it was like for them. And yeah, it's just a shame really that it just makes it not a level playing field really.
No, I know it's probably logistics, but it's always been the same, hasn't it? It's always been the French supply the camera. Why don't the Premier Sports, now they're good, why don't they just supply the cameras? A man can take a camera over in a suitcase. Do you know what I mean? I don't get why it's not even, if you have the same company just filming the same footage, it would work. Sure, do you know what I mean?
It doesn't work like that because it's all outsourced. Like it's all outsourced. Like, so, you know, Premier Sports aren't there with their own cameras. They've got a production team that are delivering it, and you know, so if it's outsourced in wherever, but in France, it's like the French production company that own the rights over there will then distribute that to the broadcasters in other jurisdictions.
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So if you've got the contract to show those games, you should be made to film it, and then it'll be an even playing field, because you can't have a French director going, "Oh, we're not going to show that replay," because it's not their cameramen, it's not their people.
It's just money, isn't it?
I know.
It's a money thing, that one, because like
that's the only way it was straightened out.
We're already paying whatever it is for this. Like for Europe, if you ignore the other stuff they've got, but for Europe now, on top of everything else, it's like a 16 quid a month fee, isn't it? Just for the small competition, and that's not sustainable. Like, I partly think that's a power play to like move away from TNT to show that they would do it, to ultimately then move back to it with a hopefully better deal, just to create the market, because it got to the point when it was just, well, there's no one else, so you move away from them, prove that you can, and then hopefully tie it up, because at the moment it's a bad deal for fans, and they must be struggling with the viewership on Premier Sports from the UK or in England, whatever, because who's forking out an extra 18 quid as well? There can't be many more people.
But anyway, to be fair, especially for it's just my opinion, especially the quality of the TV production as well. It's very, very poor.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Like you said, Van Gaal, you know, actively calling it out. He did it in the most correct way, I think. But he's such an interesting character, because I think he's a bit like Mark McCall in a lot of ways, and he's probably quite a really good bloke, but I'm not sure how successful he would be if he was at Gloucester, say. You know, I think it's you know, I don't mean to pick on Gloucester, but I mean a team with not unlimited resources.
You're trying to say like Pep Guardiola, basically. He'd go in with millions and millions and millions to spend on players, and money brings success. He wouldn't be able to do it at Oral or at Ealing. I know what you're trying to say.
Yeah, I mean, but then, you know, in itself, that's a skill. So there's like it's a balance of the two. But you know, he's very measured in a lot of what he says, and he has taken, you know, when they beat us in the quarters, it was quite a measured approach. As you know, he's very level-headed. Whereas you compare that to Leo Cullen, who, I mean, come on, like sourest man alive, that he's just constantly blaming other people or pointing fingers. This is how you treat us, and you said this about us last year, and now we're winning, and look how great we are, and you should treat us better, and all this sort of stuff. Just get over yourself.
Bearing in mind as well, they won the semi-final, they're in the final, and he was in the press conference, and he still brought us up. I was like, mate, it was a year ago. Move on. Like,
got well beat. Just accept you got beat. Yeah, you understand that your team.
Yeah.
Understand that your team are not the greatest team to ever live. Right? You're a good team amongst a lot of other good teams. You know, and let's be honest, you have a really favourable opportunity against other clubs.
I think that's the thing as well. He seems really sour about the fact that like they are not well liked by other Irish teams, because like you said about kind of the favoritism, and then therefore sort of everyone else as an extension because of kind of that. And like I'm not going to say naivety, because that suggests like you sort of innocently don't understand something. It's like a blatant kind of shoving that under the carpet and then being like, well, why does nobody like us? I was like, you can't be that dense. But like you can't be. Like it's not like anyone's ever made. No one's ever tried to hide the fact that they dislike your team because of XYZ. Like it's pretty well known.
It's a you're a province. It's basically an international side, right? Competing in a domestic tournament, and you play a brand of rugby that is what it is, right? It's very effective. Don't then kind of compare yourselves to a Welsh province or an English rugby club, because you're not on the same realms. You're not on the same. Like one is you've got the best pathways, and you're not competing with anyone else. You could argue that we've got our development areas where we can pull talent from and all this sort of stuff, and players can't cross boundaries. Having said that, Jack Lewis refused to play for Tigers and made sure that he was on the right side of the boundaries, or whatever. But it's very different. You're the one option. There aren't many people growing up in the Leinster region that are looking at Ulster or Connacht or Munster as a feasible option. It's like, if I don't play for Leinster, I don't play. It's a different concept. And so, like you say, to be, I don't know what the word is, but just blatantly ignoring that it's a different thing. And the reason why you're not liked is because of your own actions, as well as anything else, your own sourness when you get beat. In that game, it was an epic game. Should have been hands up. Saints were the better team because we play better than them on that day. They've beaten us in the past, and they've beaten us well and truly. I remember, so I will remember. I think you went to the game when we turned it round the following week when Elliot went the distance. But the week before, I mean, Leinster were one of the best. That's one of the best performances I've ever seen. They blew us out of the water. And then the Heineken Cup final in the second half against Leinster, Johnny Sexton was unreal. Like you just have to put your hands up and say they're amazing at points in time, and the inability to do that from Leo Cullen at almost every single turn you see him. It's just,
know why? They're just slightly, and I'll use the word cocky. They just think it's their God-given right to win everything, because, like you mentioned, that game, we got absolutely battered. I remember O'Driscoll putting a pass through his legs, underneath his legs. They were just insane. And then we went over all day. We were getting ripped. Oh, you boys, we're going to put 3 times the points on you. And when we didn't see any of them after the game when we beat them, it was the best. That's one of my most favourite victories ever at a rugby match, because seeing all those Leinster fans with like, oh, we've lost. It's just That's why they're not saying horrible, but that's why they're hated, because they're so cocky.
No, there is just this like expectation that or appreciation that they're the best thing ever, and it would be unthinkable that another team could compete with them. That's the mindset. It's like, but for that to be the expression delivered by the head coach or the director of rugby, like, you don't get that at other clubs. When we're top of the league, and we get beat, it's not all this or that. It's like we're too humble, and we go, really well done to the other team. And it's the same exactly what Van Graan, when they beat us, first thing he said was, what a game, what a performance by Saints. And you sort of got the impression that he was saying, we've been lucky here, which is like honest and real, and fair play. Like, but you just don't get that with Leo Cullen. And maybe it's because he played for Tigers and it's just embedded in them. So bringing us on to Tigers.
I forgot that. Sorry, I forgot he played that. He plays for the 2 teams I hate the most. No wonder I don't like the bloke.
The problem is,
not that I don't like him. It's just sporting rivalry, whatever. But
Well, I think you've got no doubt about, like they said, like his ability as a coach and like what he can do with that team. But the thing is what will happen is, like, the media will probably be negative again leading into the final, and Cullen will again be like, "What? Why?" I said, "Well, think about your last press conference, mate. Like, it's like short-term memory loss in terms of like what it was that you said and how it came across."
I would question whether we know if he's a good coach or not. I really would.
Because
how limited a knowledge of person do you think you could get in that job and then still be bent? You know, could you just pick someone off the street who's never watched a game of rugby and go, right, just sit in this office, you know, you're in charge, and that'd probably still be great, you know. So
because you're picking Ireland. Your team is the Irish side. So it's like, right, you go in there, just do whatever Andy Farrell tells you, but playing in a Leinster shirt. Boom, done.
It's the pathways are just so amazing. That's what it is. You know, they pull from a large population that all goes into one, and they've got phenomenal schools that play and fantastic club rugby as well. And so therefore the development and the pathways that produce a 40-man squad from 2 million people is incredible. It's a huge advantage that they've developed. I personally think they should split it in two and have a Dublin derby, because commercially that would be amazing for them. You know, imagine you're selling that out 2 times a year. You know, you'd make a fortune. But but they obviously don't. Leinster's its own right and whatever. But they've just got an amazing system. It's the best system
I think
in the world. But
it's also on top of that, isn't it? Like a couple of seasons ago, they just signed. I can't remember which one because there's 3 of them. They just signed one of the Barretts for a season just for the lols, by the looks of it, just because they could.
Geordie.
Yeah, I thought it was. But they did that just kind of because they could, and they just went, yeah, why not? And then, don't get me wrong, I'm sure it was great for people to watch him live, but you can see why other teams were annoyed about it. They're like, we don't quite have the same opportunity, or we don't quite have the same sort of, I don't know, is aura the right term? I suppose of you can see why Geordie Barrett would want to go and play for Leinster. But that kind of feeds into that, like you said, the whole thing about the systems and how things are kind of advantageous to them. That is the team in Ireland that attracted him the most because of the kind of advantages that they've had leading up to that. And then I was like, I like Simon Zebo the most, who even when he's commentating on stuff, does not hide how much he dislikes that team.
I think the big thing is for them is the fact that they centrally contract the players, so they produce all the talent, they centrally contract them to the Ireland national team, and then for Leinster as a operating business, it's just making so much money that it can go out and sign international talent to supplement it. But they are changing that. David Humphreys, the former Ulster player, former Gloucester coach, is now the head of those pathways, and they're actually defunding Leinster to fund the other pathways because they recognise that there's an error there.
But wasn't it back in the day? You used to have to vote. The other regions had to agree that it was fair because, like you think of. I'm just thinking of one. Was it John Afoa? Didn't he go to Ulster? It was an All Black. It used to have to be say, oh, we want this, this, and this, but you can have it. A bit like the NFL draft. But now it just seems that Leinster get everybody.
I think it was a case of around positional pieces. So because you've got 4 provinces, for example, you couldn't have 4 New Zealand scrum halves playing in the league because then you don't have an Irish scrum half. I think it was so, and then there was a vote or whatever to work that out.
Munster, wasn't it? Munster had Dougie Howlett. They had John de Villiers. They had some great players as well. It just seems to be Leinster get them all now.
I think that was the thing, right? There's a limit, I think, across the whole country. There's a limit in terms of how many overseas players you can have in the setups, and then I think a fair chunk of them went to Leinster and it didn't leave. I'm sure one of the other teams wanted to sign someone, but there was already too many, and then it led to a whole thing. It's been a whole thing across the years for different reasons. There've been issues, and then again that just feeds into, like I said, more about why we still question why they don't seem to understand the sentiment towards them. I said, but this is one thing of many. You can probably go back 20 years or 10 years. Let's say there's probably something every so often. There's something every so often where people are
it's funny enough
it's just ridiculous at this point.
the Leinster success is a modern phenomenon to some extent because if you go back in the history of the Champions Cup or European Cup, Heineken Cup, whatever you want to call it, Munster were always the dominant force, and they pulled the same process that is successful for Leinster in terms of their pathways. The Munster pathway was exceptional, playing a very different brand of rugby, and you used to find that it was always the Ireland team was the Munster pack and the Leinster backs, but actually it was a certain Michael Checker who went into the Leinster team and just made them good. You look back when he went in, where they were, and then where they are now, and his influence. I've said it enough times, but he's an exceptional coach.
Wasn't that where they had Rocky Elson?
Yeah.
And they won the Heineken. I was at that game where they beat them up the road in Edinburgh. I was at that game. I was actually a Leinster fan that day.
I don't know. This isn't funny, I guess, but it is sort of funny. But Rocky Elson can't go to France because they'll arrest him. Do you know that? He had to like leave the country because they never. But there's a lot. He's got a defense, and it's he says one thing, and he's been trialed for something else and everything. It's all to do with a fraud. There's nothing, it's nothing. He says it's all wrong. It's complete rubbish, and my legal team, blah blah blah, back me up.
Yeah.
But I can't go to France to defend myself because if I step on French soil, they'll arrest me. So and they'll put me in prison because he got sentenced to like 4 years. For like I said, it wasn't anything. It was fraud that he was accused of. Yeah, it wasn't violence or anything other than like that. It was an integrity point of view rather than anything.
He was insane that day in that final. It was his final, wasn't it? He was
a class player. He was,
yeah, absolutely.
The only issue, I suppose it leaves me is that I don't want either of the two teams to win, and yet one of them has to. Because I've become, I after Bordeaux last year, I'm just so sour on them. So sour on them, but I'm also so sour on Leinster's.
I never want Leinster to win. I can't now. They're just the worst of the worst. So Bordeaux for me, unfortunately.
I think based on how they're both playing at the moment, anyway, I'd be surprised if it wasn't Bordeaux. But you never know what Leinster's going to show up on the day. But I think it will be a good final. I do genuinely think it will be a
clash of styles. A clash of styles, clash of approaches, but we can maybe comment on that in the future. But we this was supposed to be entirely about the Leicester game, and we've deviated. So let's get it. What do you think about the East Midlands derby this weekend? What do you think?
Yeah, it's always one of them, isn't it? It's always one of them, especially away, playing on the roundabout. Yeah, it depends who we pick, I suppose, but we should be going there confident because we've not been playing the best, but we're still getting results. So if we can play in 80 minutes, yeah, it should be an amazing game. It always is. It doesn't matter. I remember back in the day when Saints had like not the best sides, but like we'd go and manage. I've seen a few wins at Welford Road. I remember Sharkey, I think, scored a try in the quarter. This is going back a while. Scored a try in the corner. It was like a mud bath, and it was like, yeah, it's just a special thing to see all those sour faces leaving. There's 25,000 upset people.
It's an interesting. You have to like pick, and you get like it's luck of the draw where you sit based on whether it's going to be enjoyable or horrific. You get a real mix of crowd at Welford Road. Some of them are great, and they'll share their pork pies with you or what have you. Whereas some of them are just
give you the evils all match, aren't they? Yeah.
Just beyond biased, and
I think it's one of those where both teams were probably happy that they had time off. So, Leicester have lost, I think, definitely the last one, but maybe the last couple. Like, there's been a little bit of a dip, and it's probably the same for us. So a kind of like R&R week has probably come at like a really good time for both teams, which hopefully means, like I said, it will be a good contest. I mean, obviously, I will still always pick us to win. I think out of the 4 games we've got left, it's probably the most difficult one. Like, if someone said, like, you need to pick one of the 4 that you think they're going to lose, not definitely, but most likely to over the others, it's probably this one that I pick. Just because we've got, Bristol at home, which is really helpful, Gloucester at home, and then Quins away. And like I said, Quins might be a bogey because they're really struggling and might just pluck something out of thin air and just absolutely go for it. But I'd still argue that, that away Tigers one's probably the harder of the like 4 fixtures that we've got, without question. But we've also got like some positive news that I think this Colsey's back in training, right? So he might potentially be an option. Ferbs is back in training. If you can get both of those back in there, I reckon you can add a 10% chance onto our, potential to win just having the both of them. Because I think in terms of lineouts and restarts, like Colsey's so important to, kind of get back in there. And we know about, look, we're not going to make the point again, but we kind of discussed the issues at fullback in the previous fixture. So I just think having a bit more security with Ferbs in there is also going to be super duper important. Obviously, I don't know for sure. I think Ferbs is supposed to be all right. Obviously, Coles is back in training. They never really said if he would be picked or not.
It'd be tough to chuck him straight back in.
I think he'd be on the bench.
It would be probably a bench, which is not necessarily a problem. But then we also talk about how how he played against Bordeaux in the final when he had an injury the week before, and he said he was probably supposed to have 2 or 3 weeks off, and he ended up having the one because obviously it was the next week's, and he played a blinder. So who actually knows at this point?
With injections,
but even just having him off, the bench, if you bring him on for 30 minutes and it's close, and maybe we're still having a few issues with restarts or lineouts or calls, whatever it might be, just having him on can be really beneficial. And then, like I said, if you can get Ferbs on from the beginning, that's definitely super duper useful. So yeah, I think it's be a really interesting fixture. I also think it's one of those that, if you were to lose, I suppose it's not the end of the world considering where we are. Like, I don't mean like team wise, I mean taking the teams out of it. I just mean if you had a loss, it's still easily recoverable, like for the rest of the and I wonder if that might actually take a bit of pressure off of them, weirdly enough. Like the idea of, like, because the game against Bath, it was also really important to try and get a bit more of a gap between first and second, and get even further away from third and fourth, because now we're 10 points away from those, which is really beneficial in terms of the top two. So I actually wonder if this not necessarily being an absolute must win might just free them up to just hopefully go and play a really good game in the away derby fixture.
Every derby's a must-win, Jess. Every derby's a must-win.
I don't mean it from that perspective. I mean it from, if they're also thinking of, you want to get top two where you can. Like, that win over Bath really did take some of that pressure off in terms of keeping yourself in those two spots. Obviously, yeah, of course, it's always a must-win against them. But I wonder if the fact that it's the derby, which they always seem to want to play really well for anyway, to kind of get up for in terms of like how well they play. Plus you add it on to the fact that we've got that 4-point buffer and that 10-point buffer over third. Perhaps all of that just comes together to hopefully put them in a better frame of mind than perhaps they were against Bath, even though we did get the win.
I think it definitely takes the pressure off a bit that, 2 home games, do well in them, that's probably enough. Right? Yeah. So I think that takes a bit of the pressure off, but what it does is sort of isolate this game and put it in its own category of it's an East Midlands derby. The league is almost takes a backward step for it, because reality is we could probably come away with 2 points and that'll be a really good return. But because it's not like win or bust regarding the league in this game, it just goes, it's an East Midlands derby. It's important for the right reasons of the rivalry and the history, and in itself it will, contrast of styles more than anything. The way they play compared to the way we play is, you couldn't be more antithesis. They're completely different, and like you see, I think form is a bit similar in the sense of they had a great start to the season. Parlin's clearly building something there, taking them back to what they're good. And when you look at the recruitment they've done, it's very much can do a job in the backs, a bit of excitement, but can do a job, and a forward pack that's getting bigger and bigger with every signing. They are going back to Tigers of bygone eras, I think, a little bit, which I don't hate. I think it's good to have differences in the league. I'm glad it's not us that are becoming that different team, but it adds a bit of spice when you get Tigers in. It's just going to be a brutal physical contest, and you want to see how the boys do against that. Plus, how can they put their game on the pitch? I think if we can put our game on the pitch, run the ball, run their forwards back, keep it a high energy game, and play like some of the rugby we've played this season, then it shouldn't be a contest, but it ultimately is going to be a nail biter, isn't it? Because it always is.
Yeah. It's also beneficial. I think they said JJ was also back in training, didn't they? Like, sometimes it's also helpful, like if they're big, to at least have one of your own, big people that you can throw in. Like, whether he's going to come off the bench or not, I don't really know, because it was like a leg injury after he got tackled. But just the fact he's back in training and is therefore, I'm assuming, eligible to be selected if he continues to play well. That's good as well, because, like you said, as much as they've got a big forward pack, I mean, you throw him in there running at you.
Especially his kicking skills as well.
I just said no kicking. It's one of them, though. It's always, I can think back in the day, they always had the team full of England internationals, and we used to get the odd win. And now we're probably going in. I don't want to over egg it because I don't want to jinx us, but we'll go in as the better side. I know we're playing away, but and as we do, we don't play well as favourites. But it's weird going into a derby at their ground, going, we could win this, we should win this. Do you know what I mean? And I hate doing that because I don't want to jinx us, but. Yeah, if we put the team out, we play the rugby. It shouldn't be a contest, really, like Charles said.
But at the same,
there's totally different ways.
Away makes a massive difference. Like if we played them on a neutral ground or at the Gardens, you would say that 9 out of 10 we should win. Like, and that's not. They're a really good side, but that they're where they should be in the league. I think and we're where we should be. So. That's it's not dissing them. They will get there. I'm sure they'll be a top team again, no doubt. But we should be beating them. But when you bring in away in the Prem and away at Welford Road, in what will probably be sold out, like it's a completely different.
It is. It does feel like like the great leveler in terms of that, and also the fact that like they're in and around that mix for fourth, aren't they? There's 4 teams that could still potentially. Kind of in and around those spots. It's like them, Exeter, Sarries, Bristol. Like they're properly all going to be fighting that out for the last 4 games. So it puts an extra sort of emphasis for Tigers, and this is what I meant about how it kind of frees us up in a way, whereas maybe it doesn't for them quite as much, because for them every fixture now is a must win. If they want to have that shot of getting into the 3rd or 4th spot, we're in a situation where we could, like I've said, we could lose one, and I still firmly believe we'll make that top 2 at the end. But for them, they lose any fixtures at this point, and they can, they're on a very slippery road in terms of if they make it into the playoffs. And so, it's really interesting. You really do have not just 2 teams that play really differently, but 2 teams that are in completely different positions league-wise, and kind of the importance of that fixture, like taking the Midlands Derby out of it, like the importance of that fixture for how the rest of their season's going to go. Like for us, it maybe doesn't have as much of that emphasis on it as it does for Tigers, and I've got no idea how that's going to manifest for Tigers. If potentially they're going to feel extra pressure, it's a derby, we need to perform, but we also absolutely must win. Whereas for us, we're kind of in a case of actually we don't definitely need to win, so we can just go at it, just kind of throw everything at it, see what happens. It's a derby, we want to kind of get the win. So they're in like completely opposite kind of situations going into it. It's kind of a unique place to be. You think about last year, like we were not doing well in the Prem really at any point, so we probably had again a very different feel to those derby fixtures to Tigers, and that seems to be the same sort of this year. It'd be really interesting how it kind of manifests on the day.
I think we can go in there focus on performance, can't we? Because we don't have to worry about much else. And I think that they always want to focus on performance and ignore their everything, all the outside influences. But that's very difficult when there's so much on the line. But when it is like this, you can probably ignore some of that stuff and focus on performance. In terms of team, I mean, I think the team picks itself. I mean, if I run it through it really quickly, at the end, call me where you think you're wrong, but where I'm wrong. But Manny, Wright, probably Kundiona, Lockett, Prowse or JJ, depending on fitness, Kemeny, Pollock, Graham, Mitchell, Finn. The centres would be Dingers and Litchfield. Back 3 potentially would probably be Slights, Freeman, Ferbs.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I would say Danny. I can never say. Is it Fischetti? I always say his name
Fischetti.
wrong.
Fischetti.
Yeah, sorry. I think he might, because he hasn't played much, has he? He might get the start just because of Hayes. I'm guessing Hayes will be playing for them. So he's obviously been one of the best loose heads around in the Six Nations. So other than that, it wouldn't be. You wouldn't lose anything if you played either of them. That's what I'm saying.
I think you got the potential other players. Fischetti could definitely be a contender. Chick could be a contender. If dependent on Cole's fitness, he could obviously be a contender. Hutchinson could be a contender in the midfield. Hendy could be a contender on the wing or at fullback, potentially on Furbank's fitness, whatever. Like there are players who are contending, but
I think
it picks itself.
I was going to say, I think Ferbs should be all right. It was just because he had so many HIAs, wasn't it?
Well, it was a delayed head knock. It was the delayed head head injury assessment piece, so he had symptoms the next day or whatever, I think,
or
within the game.
I thought his was because he had so many in the season, he had to have a week off.
No, it was some delay. It was delayed symptoms that they judged him to be fine on the day, and then he said he had some concussions. They obviously have to do a check the following day, I should imagine, but he was showing some symptoms. But I mean, if they said he's back in proper training, I'm assuming that means he's good, because I'm assuming that includes full contact training.
Yeah,
which I'm assuming you wouldn't be able to do if you were showing symptoms still, because it's a 7-day stand down period, right? So I'm assuming he's good. But
yeah, I'd assume he starts, and then it's a case of Freeman definitely plays.
Yeah, 100%. I would say the same for Ollie right now, because you want to build up his fitness. I actually think his performance against Bath was pretty solid. So that's just a case of continuing to get minutes in him. And then, look, we always talk about the centres, but I think Litch is undroppable. And then it just is Dinger's Litch naturally. And then I suppose the thing that really does happen with Hutch, and also the fact that we have had injuries this season, is that him being a cover for multiple different positions is so important. I think that does factor in a bit.
Hutch and Hendy on the bench is serious impact, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like if you need to change a game, there's a couple of great options.
Just a bit earlier this time, Mr. Dowson, just a bit earlier. You can bring Hutch on with 10 minutes to go. It's not really going to do that.
Yeah, if you need him to do a bit more. But otherwise, there are a few people in there that you just can't drop, I think. Like you said, I mean, Smith is a definite one. Pollock is a definite one at this point. You start that kid. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I'm guessing that the bench is pretty, it's either going to be Manny or Fischetti, whichever the opposite. Robbie Smith potentially starts as well, but it could be him or Wright of the two. And then Luke Green seems to be the option at tight end at the moment as the bench cover. He might start, but and then you've got a whole host of second rows depending on who starts. That's the difficult one, depending on what the fitness levels are. The back row's slightly trickier. I mean, it's going to be Chick or Graham, I think. They'll be the one players, one's on the bench. McParland's a guaranteed bench player. Hutchinson's a guaranteed going to be in the squad. So if he's not starting, he'll be in the bench. As same with Hendy, I think. It's almost like there's not a lot. I can probably be challenged massively on this, but there's not a lot of players outside that 23 that are really contending to be in the 23 at the moment, I think, because of the injuries, effectively. As soon as you get players back fit, then it becomes, we've actually got a lot more options. But
it's like when you think about adding Pearson into that into that background mix, you start to think, oh god, who is it going to be? But no, I agree. I think kind of with the injuries that you've got, with the injuries that you've got now, you're just sort of there aren't that many.
What about the wonder sub that won the derby at home though?
Tony Bellew.
Yeah.
Well,
the problem,
I
suppose,
point with him, because Pater seemed to get a nod on him, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did for a while. Yeah, he did for a bit. It's also a difficult one of and it isn't just us, it's a lot of teams at the moment that obviously you pick your starting 10, which is no doubt Finn. The way he's playing right now is like rugby from the gods. And then it's very rare that teams tend to have an out and out. And I know that Bellew obviously has played other positions. He won that derby from 15, I think, is what he came on to cover. But he's still a 10, isn't he? That very rarely do teams tend to put an out and out 10 on the bench these days. They tend to have cover positions like a Hutch, who, I'm not saying you want him to play 10, but he absolutely could if you needed him to, or you move him somewhere else and Ferbs comes that way. Exactly. Like that you're actually in the position that it's a bit tough with Bellew at the moment, because it's almost a bit like he's kind of surplus to requirements, which sounds weird because of what we know he's been able to do. But we've said before that like your second option if Smith has to go off is Ferbs at 10 and either Hutch at fullback, or you just do a bit more jiggling around there if you have to. But I
think Hendy would go to fullback and go to 10. And that's what happened. I think was it Chiefs away. Finn went off, and was it? No, it can't have been Finn went off because he scored the winner. Maybe it was Bath in the quarter final. Furbank went to 10, didn't he?
We've had one where he has been.
And so it's like Ferbs slotted in, and we go well with him there. So it's just a clear, and having Hutchinson who can cover positions, but Hendy can cover the whole back three, etc.
And it's also the fact of the way that Ferbs plays, you want him on the pitch and whatever that position is going to be. Like the reality is you could maybe argue that Bello is a better 10, but Ferbs is a better player and is someone that you need on the pitch at every possible second that you can possibly have him with the way that he plays right now. That it just becomes that kind of it just becomes that situation where and I think even Bello knew this, to be fair, when he signed, that his sort of opportunities are when Smith is away.
He'll get more. He'll get more next year when Ferbs is here, though, won't he? To be fair.
Yeah, very, very possibly. Certainly when Smith, presuming he continues to go off for internationals, like it's an obvious choice then for Bello to come in that position. And if Ferbs, obviously we don't have Ferbs, so then you have Bello would be 10 and maybe Pater would be your kind of, you'd work him through as a 15 or whatever it might be. So yeah, I certainly think over the next couple of seasons without Ferbs, then perhaps you see a bit more of him in certain, maybe even as a 15 cover occasionally if you need to. So we may see him a bit more, who knows? So many potential permutations with the people that we've got there.
I think, either becomes Pater steps up into that Ferbs role where he can cover both, or like you say, more likely Belly plays more. There is rumours of a certain elderly Scottish international who can cover 10 and 15. I can't see it based on what we've got. I can't see it. It's Lang, the former Quins player. He's played for Scotland. He's rumoured, but I don't see that fitting their model of who they sign, or we're 3 deep in every position. So why?
I
feel like they may sign someone as a cover, but
I saw a rumour of where was he from? Was it from a winger or a fullback? I can't remember his name.
So there's an Italian youngster called Malik Faisal, who we've been linked with.
No, he's an older guy. I can't think of his name. Where did I see it? It was on another page. I think he's South African or...
To be fair, the amount of people that... It's almost like Ferbs is going and they know maybe we want to sign someone. So anybody that's potentially available just gets linked because...
Get more money. Get more money on their new contract,
Yeah.
The rumour as well about Tighthead as well, which I think makes sense because you look at the moment with Big Trev out, and obviously Elliot Mills is leaving. Suddenly you look at what we'd have left, and it would put a lot of expectation or requirement on a young Tonga Weir who possibly isn't quite ready for that yet. So I think Tighthead makes sense. I think when you've got Finn, Bellew, Pater, Hutch in amongst the squad, and a young Shields coming through as well, who can do a job in training for you. You stick a red bib on him and you let him run an attack in training, so you're getting good challenge in training, which is half the problem. You need good bodies in training as much as anything. But I can't see the need for a utility sort of player. I think they're so deep everywhere that it's sort of. I don't know, but they might just do it. But then you've got to keep that person happy, don't you? So
I think fullback, mate, because Pater's still a young pup, and we haven't really got an out-and-out fullback until.
There's a chance they sign someone as a cover for a bit.
We know we all love Hendy, but like we saw the other day, under the high ball, he can't have that in a big game because.
They back him. They will back him. And,
of course, we back it. The boy won the final for us. I love him. I'm not dissing him.
They've got
knock-ons.
They've got Pater, who they want to have a space for. Obviously, they've got Martin in the squad who's played 15. Yeah. Tommy can play 15. If you're down to your sixth choice, Hutch can play 15.
15,
because you can't have endless options. They've got a budget to sit within. And
I get it, but you're losing Ram and Ferbs.
I wonder if they
massive players.
I wonder if maybe if they're interested in just like a 1-year contract for someone where even if it's just to serve like taking a bit of pressure off of Pater and Hendy a little bit, that they get the chance to kind of go through the season working on their game, maybe without the inherent
or progress them. Also, bring in an experienced person to help them progress on.
Yeah, who knows?
That's where that Lang might come into it because of that. He's 31. He's been up in Edinburgh. Hasn't had a looking. He played 70 odd times for Quins. He's an experienced player. He's got Scotland caps. So maybe someone like that. It's just wouldn't be in keeping with their normal signing profile. But anyway, that's another thing. Predictions for the weekend. I mean, what do we think? It's Si to go first.
Right. I had a fullback. Even if we played the under 10s, I'll still have to back us. I'm going to go 25-30 and Tommy.
Yeah, okay, it's good. I think that's quite a good option. It's Jess.
I'm gonna sneakily look at what the weather is supposed to be like because I feel like that directly impacts what happens.
It's spring now. It's been lovely and sunny. Of course it will. It's Britain.
Yeah, but you also get spring showers.
I know. I was joking. I'm being ironic. You're in Britain.
Okay, so this weekend it's like 20 degrees. Doesn't look like there should be too much rain. Okay, I'm gonna go.
It's gonna go like 100 to 120 now because of that.
100 to 101. I just think there's been so many games in the 40s. I tend to just stick with that at the moment, to be honest. But I don't know if I'm gonna. Yeah, I'm still gonna do that, I think. Let's go. Oh, screw it. I'll just say what let's go 35-42. Let's go for a try difference. Scorer. I'm gonna go Ollie. Look, I haven't picked Ollie for a while, so I'm gonna go for Slights.
Yeah, cool. I think it's gonna be so tough. I think it all depends on our forward pack showing up, our defenders showing up, and a lot of that is can they get motivated for this fixture? Because rightly or wrongly, that has been what we've seen. There has been ups and downs in motivations, but you can't not get up for this game. So
yeah,
I fully expect us to turn up. I'm obviously going to pick us to win. We score 41 points every week, so I'll go 32-41.
That seems totally fair.
And it's obviously going to be the chosen one who scores the tries. Like that, it's a given, isn't it? That it's going to be the chosen one who scores the winner.
Also, so, totally fair.
I went a little lower just because of the derby, because the factor of the derby.
Yeah, that could factor in definitely. But
I think sometimes with the derby, they lose their minds and defences go out the window a bit, don't they?
It goes one way or the other, doesn't it? Yeah, it's either high scoring or no scoring.
And it just seems every game at the moment seems to be such high scores. Like I said, that game, the Bath thing, if that's rugby, I have no interest in it. So I'm hoping it's a more competitive, gritty game than that game at least. But I still think we'll get some tough scores. And the way Tigers play, they will score because Billy Searle will stick it in the corner and you can't stop him. So this discipline has got to be so key because if you give a penalty away around the halfway line, you need to expect that within 5 minutes you're going to be defending on your own line. So it's sort of like extra rolled territory is key. Discipline is key. I expect a lot of keeping the ball in play, long kicking, so that and hopefully decent chases, connected chases, so that we can win that territory game. And then be clean as anything. I would literally be saying, right, no one going in their heart around the halfway line. Don't compete unless your name's Henry Pollock, right? Do not compete at the breakdown. Do not give the referee any excuse to give away a penalty because a penalty in the halfway line is almost a death sentence in the sense that you're probably going to concede a try off of it. So it's a really interesting game. This is the game. I can't wait. I'm more interested in this going to this, which I am, than going to a Prem final. This is a better day for me. I cannot wait. But anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. It's been another interesting chat, even though we've only had the one fixture to look ahead to. Not a lot of saintly news otherwise. But thank you for listening. I've been Charles. Jess has been Jess. Simon's been Simon. Thank you very much.
Goodbye.